Could I quickly ask, perhaps first of all, Anna, if you could just mention very briefly, if you could think about one of the most significant changes in the relationship between employers and workers that's emerged from the COVID pandemic, just one of the most significant changes, and whether or how you think employment partnerships can actually assist in addressing that particular change. So one significant change and what partnerships can do to address the change in a relationship between workers and employers as a consequence of COVID.
Well, of course, the most obvious change has been that telework is much more prominent, which also means that the relationships between employers and employees must be standing much more on trust between each other, but also a lot about the different tools and change in what kind of tools are used to conduct work. So it's not only hardware but also software. So of course, PES can do a lot here in many directions, or also private employment services. So it's of course a lot about digital upskilling. So for those who maybe still have a job but need upskilling for continued working, as well as of course people who are now pushed out of employment. But also it of course has changed a lot to how job search has been is possible to conduct, and all this even interviews and so on. So basically it's a lot about giving opportunity to adapt to the new environment. I suppose this is the most obvious and urgent need.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna. That's very interesting. So clearly PES have got a role in increasing people's digital capability to avail themselves of the opportunities emerging following the crisis. Could I ask you, sort of, Menno, again, the same question, so picking up perhaps on a different area. So another significant change in the relationship between employers and workers as a consequence of the COVID pandemic, and just one other thing you think that employment services partnerships can do to assist in managing this particular transition or change?
Thank you. And it's a hard question, because in a way, yes, the telework indeed has been sort of on the surface the biggest change, but in a way, I think that this change has also worked its way through more or less what it means to be part of a company, what it means to be a part of a team, for example. And that whole idea might have shifted, and with as many, I mean, this is not the first time that someone says this, but I would say in that sense that the pandemic and the crisis has maybe accelerated a trend that had already been going on, where we see that collaboration may also exist outside of that core team of people who are employed by a company, and that people who are maybe agency workers or external contractors are just as much part of that same mission of a company of trying to achieve its goals, and so I think that actually might have been a positive side effect. The idea that, well, if we can't do it the way it was always supposed to be done, then I suppose we need to do it the way we can do it, and sort of being forced to make things work in the way we can make it work.